All right, Pandemonium is a brand new 2024 French horror film that was actually originally brought to my attention by Alex from Beyond the Void Horror Podcast. Someone sent him a really nice Arrow copy of this, and I was like, shit, it already got an Arrow release, and it's a brand new film. I've never even heard of it. What is this thing? And so I got access to it today and watched it this morning, and let's talk about it. So I knew literally nothing going into this. I pretty much say in every video at this point that is the preferred method of viewing for me personally, and I would recommend doing it more. Just take a risk, throw something on. It's the best way to watch anything. As I've said before, I don't even want to know what genre it is. Like, if I could just depend on someone who know the kind of shit that I liked, and they could just throw something on just randomly that I literally don't know anything, if it's going to be a comedy, if it's going to be anything, it's the best. It's just the best, because your brain just kind of has to like figure it out as it's watching. And yeah, it's the best way to watch films ever. Anyway, so yeah, this one I went into blind. As far as what I can tell you about the film, so okay, I'll say this. I was really enjoying this movie a lot. And then it revealed what kind of movie it was. And I was like, oh, I wish it wasn't that kind of movie, honestly, because I was really enjoying what it was until it was that. So I'll reveal what that is in a minute for someone who wants to know. I'll give a brief synopsis that leaves that part out. But then after after a couple more thoughts, I will reveal what that is for people who are still on the fence and want a little more push, because they're like, okay, I want to know what kind of film this is. I want to know what I'm getting myself into. And maybe if I knew that going in, I would have been more expectant of that. And maybe I would have liked that more. I don't know. Anyways, I'm beating around the bush now. So the movie is about two guys who got into a car wreck and they're dead. I mean, it's very obvious very quickly. It's one of those things that back in the 50s or 60s or something, they would try to play that out for an entire film. And then they would be like, you're actually dead. And their audience is like, oh my God. And nowadays, we're so trained to this kind of shit. We saw The Sixth Sense. We saw, we've seen movies that have really tried to hide it the best they can. So when you have an opening like this, where he like gets out of a wrecked car, he's actually outside the wrecked car, but then there's another guy and they're like, they got in a wreck and they're like, there's no damage. And they're talking about like, there's no damage on my body. How is this possible? It's like that all happens within like the first minute. So it's like the most obvious thing ever that they're dead. So when it's revealed like 5 minutes later, it's like, yeah, obviously. And then some doorways appear. One to hell and one to heaven. Which one's for which? Okay, so that's where I'll leave it there for the synopsis. I was really enjoying that. The banter between the two guys, the back and forth, the whole grandstanding about their morality versus the other ones and little secrets that were hidden. I thought that's how the whole film was going to play out, and I was all here for it. I was like, I'm going to be super into this movie. I love that kind of shit, right? Like, I really enjoy these, like, very confined quarters, couple people, or, a few people in a restricted area, and they have to either fight against one another for survival, or lots of secrets are being revealed and you're kind of constantly going back and forth on whose side you're on, and then they dupe you this way and that way and you're like, oh shit, I don't know now, what do I think, and the tensions are ramped up. And I thought that that's the way this movie was going to go. Then it reveals itself to be something else, and that bummed me out because it completely drastically changes the film. Completely. And then it just slows the film down, and it changes the film so drastically that I shouldn't even say slows it down. It brings it to a grinding halt. And I'm like, oh, bummer. I wish they would have just stuck with that. So it's just that bummed me out. Even though overall I do think this is at least an interesting watch, and I think it's well done, and I would say I liked it, but I was so buying into, and because I didn't know what kind of movie this was, I was so into what was going on that when it changed, I was like, damn it, I don't want this to go that way. No, I want to stick with what we're doing here. Expand upon that. Make an entire film out of that. I would have been much more into that. But so now I'm going to reveal what that thing is. If you don't want to know, you can go check this out. If this sounds interesting. But so that thing, it becomes an anthology movie. So this is just like the wraparound story, so to speak. And we then get two tales that come in and break the film up completely. And we go off to one for like 20 or 30 minutes and then another one for like 20 to 30 minutes. I don't know what time it is, but something like that. And then we end, like we come back to the wraparound for a second and then we end on the wraparound. And where the wraparound ends and like where it goes and all that stuff after the segments, I didn't really care for how it wrapped up because of how interested I was in the beginning and I was wondering what happened to someone else. I don't know. I felt very let down by the fact that this ended up being an anthology. And while I think the two segments they're good, they're fine. I didn't love either one of them. I thought they were good. They were just kind of extremely unwanted to me. I was like, no, go away. Hey, you don't need to be here. I just want to see what's happening on the wraparound. And that's never the case. Very rarely the case in anthologies. But I will say the anthology setup here is pretty classic, right? Like, this is very classic Amicus anthologies where it's people on a train and then we find out that they died and that this is their stories. And you know what I mean? Like, we did that in a lot of the Amicus anthologies. So that whole, like, we're dead and then we're telling tales after the fact kind of thing is very, very classic anthology. But man, I just wish this didn't go that route. I really wish that we could just get an entire, just the wraparound story and nothing else. But overall, I did like it. I just felt very disappointed because I think this could have been a fave of the year for me. I'm super into this kind of shit. I like these mysteries that play out like this. So, yeah. Oh well. If I knew it was an anthology going in, would I have liked it more? I think I would have felt the same way. I think I would have been like, oh, I'm really enjoying this. I wish that they didn't go to anthology segments. So even if you know it's an anthology, I think you're still going to feel similarly. Or maybe I don't know. I don't find that the segments are all that satisfying. Like, they're well done. They're well acted. They're fairly devastating, right? Because what we learn, the first one is a little goofy, to be completely honest. And I don't even know what exactly is happening in that one. I'm kind of confused on that. And then the ending the ending of our wraparound, I just didn't like it. I don't like where it goes and like where it eventually ends with like a totally different thing. That I just was like, huh? Okay. I don't know about that. That's okay. That's like that's far removed from where the hell I thought this story was going, and not in a good way. So, yeah. Anyway, all right. Pandemonium could have been fantastic, but I left disappointed. All right. Let me know if you watch it. Bye.